Ladies and gentlemen, I could use this video to go on and on about the 4-year cycle and the date range trends within the 4-year cycle that say that Bitcoin should continue rising to new all-time highs until the end of the year. But I almost guarantee you that every single person watching this video right now has heard that countless times and are very well aware about that. So let's do something new here. I'm going to take a fresh chart, this chart on the screen right here, blank slate, and I'm going to analyze for you using basic TA on this chart what the bull case for Bitcoin is right now, using lines, using indicators, and using volume profile. That's all I'll be using. A very simplistic analysis about what the bull case is for Bitcoin right now, where Bitcoin cannot go below, and what the trigger points for Bitcoin are, and what is likely to happen based on that very textbook 101 TA analysis. So starting from scratch here, we'll get into all of it today, and you'll see step by step how I come to these conclusions. Before we get into it today, guys, we have an exchange here that has never been hacked before in 3.5 years of being on the market. That is global non-KYC. You can sign up from anywhere in the world and use this exchange without a VPN. And furthermore, with my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life, as well as $8,000 plus USDT in trading rewards added to your account as trading bonuses for signing up with my referral link down below. This is big stuff here. It's an excellent deal. I reached out to them for partnership. They did not reach out to me. I don't get paid by them. The only thing I get is a referral link. And if you want all those things I just mentioned, which you should, trust me, I've done the scouting of the market, you can use my link down below to sign up. It takes 30 seconds and you'll get those rewards and bonuses and you'll help out the channel. I appreciate that, guys. Let's get into the content. First, let's understand this, and some of this stuff I'll be going over here today, you've probably heard before in this YouTube channel, but I'll get into the fresh stuff momentarily. It is part of the analysis, unfortunately, to recap the prior macro range, and that prior macro range is not built around horizontal levels like we've seen in the past. We've seen macro ranges built around certain things in the past. One of them right here in 2023 was a horizontal range. One of them was a structural pattern-based range, a descending channel. This one here is actually built around lines from prior cycles. So we get a support line from 2021, cut through the two peaks of 2021 and cutting right across the support there. You can see it in green. And we have one coming back from 2017, cutting across resistance from the 2021 bull market and resistance from the two peaks in 2024. And you can see that here as well. I'll make that yellow. So we've got our macro range here in yellow and green. Let's go to the daily chart just to validate that, as you can see very clearly, okay, very clearly. It's not up for debate or anything like that. These are the critical levels. Now you can slightly redraw it, maybe readjust it and get some better touches. Maybe here you can have it like that if you want to, but regardless, this is the critical macro range we had. We had a M formation, a double top formation within that macro range. The breakdown did not accelerate until we lost the macro support. When we lost the macro support, the breakdown accelerated, further validating that range. Now, within that range, we had some critical indicators. We'll discuss that in a moment because they are actually relevant to what our trigger point back to the upside is. But now that we've analyzed that range, our prior macro range, we know that Bitcoin is in a breakdown from that macro range. And Bitcoin, as I've said multiple times on this YouTube channel, is in a bit of a no man's land right now. There's not much historical data between around 74,000, which is the peak of the prior range, all right, the one before this one right here, right, the one that encompassed 2024, between 74,000 and the bottom of our most recent range at around, let's say, 84,000, 86,000. Not really much price action there, historically speaking, at all. In fact, we're seeing the first real dose of price action in that price region. Therefore, we have no real, not much, I will say. It's not none, because we've seen a couple of weeks of price action now, but not really any meaningful analytical capacity in that price region. We don't have much data, therefore we can't really have many predictions from any concrete basis of evidence because there's just not enough data in that price region. It's a fresh price region. It's price discovery, similar to when Bitcoin is reaching to all-time highs and you don't really know what's going to happen next because there's nothing we've ever seen in that price region before. That's what we're seeing right now. It's just to the downside instead of to an all-time high or to the upside. So we're lurking here and that puts Bitcoin in an uncomfortable position, of course. But what we can do is we can chart around it. And we can chart actually what's going on here in the short term. We'll do that in a moment, but we can chart around it first. And what we can do by charting around it is simply analyzing our prior macro range, the one here in 2024, drawing a very strong support between around, look, it depends on where you draw it. I would say it's around 70,000, right? And around 74,000 being the peak of the prior range, right? That support zone is very, very strong. And that's a bounce zone for Bitcoin quite clearly in my view. So when you bring that context into this picture, what you see is that Bitcoin is in a macro breakdown, falling towards the bounce zone, which is offered via the prior resistance zone from 2024. And therefore, Bitcoin should hypothetically be in free fall here until it reaches that level. That is basically true. I basically agree with that. There's another critical level, there's another critical indicator here on the Bitcoin charts. It's the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart, which further bolsters that bounce region for support. The weekly chart Gaussian channel has been very influential on Bitcoin historically speaking. We've discussed it countless times on this YouTube channel. Ultimately, if we break below or into that Gaussian channel on the weekly chart, I would expect Bitcoin to be in serious, serious trouble. My justification for that claim is simply looking at the historical price data and noticing that every time Bitcoin has fallen into the Gaussian channel, and specifically every time it's broken below the center line of the Gaussian channel, it has moved through the Gaussian channel, right? Moving through it, going down into it and moving through it, going up into it and moving through it over and over and over again with not one single fake out. This has happened every single time. So entering this Gaussian channel and specifically breaking below the center line, which currently stands at 64,000, would equal us moving through it and moving into a downwards trend and hence a bear market. So that zone, that Gaussian channel, specifically the center line of that Gaussian channel, lining up with that macro bounce zone actually bolsters the macro bounce zone and creates a very strong area of support on Bitcoin. But that's not the only thing that bolsters the macro bounce zone. There's another thing here. It's an ascending support line stemming backwards from around October 2023, as you can see on the screen here, something like this, a speculative support line. It's not concrete or anything like that, but it could be something like this from October 2023. There also could be a hypothetical support line like this potentially. Both of these support lines, both hypothetical, nothing really concrete there. But both of them, if they are real, could further bolster this bounce zone at around 70,000 to 74,000, offering Bitcoin a trampoline in that price region. Furthermore, there's more evidence here. Obviously, throughout 2024, the entire consolidation region here was basically marked via a massive descending channel formation, something like this. Let's not waste time drawing it correctly, but it was something like that. I'll make these lines different color, blue, so you can see them perhaps. Well, there could be something a little bit similar going on here. We know that over here in 2024, when we had this massive consolidation, there was multiple occurrences where we dropped and deviated below the channel formation structure, causing serious threats to Bitcoin, causing serious concern. And we could be doing something similar right now. We could have perhaps a descending wedge, maybe a descending wedge formation. The top line is certainly valid. The bottom line is harder to draw, harder to validate, but it could be something like this. Perhaps it's actually a valid, what I just drew there is completely valid because it has 3 retests on either side, but I'm not too confident in the bottom line remaining like that. It's hard to say, but what I'm saying is we could have, just like what we had here with this macro consolidation last year, we could have some sort of actual pattern forming here, a descending wedge pattern. And if that in fact is a descending wedge pattern, just zooming back to the weekly chart, that puts us in a very good situation because what we have then is a descending wedge, which is a pattern that generally breaks to the upside, a pattern that represents bearish exhaustion. So sellers selling and the price still moving downwards, but they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker as the price moves downwards, and eventually the bulls regain control and the price swings back to the upside. So we would have in that situation a descending wedge formation going into a macro bounce zone, which is marked via a level that held for resistance for 8 consecutive months, a very strong level of liquidity. So a descending wedge formation, pattern of exhaustion, going into a very strong macro bounce zone, bolstered by 2 potential ascending lines, as well as being bolstered by one of the most important indicators in the Bitcoin chart, the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart. That is making a very strong bounce zone for Bitcoin, and making a very strong case for Bitcoin bouncing around that price region at 70,000 to 74,000. So that's what I see as the bull case right now. The bull case, in my view, the most bullish thing Bitcoin can do pretty much is continue downwards towards 70,000 and then break upwards, right? And trampoline off that level. And I don't see it as unlikely at all. I think that lines up with the cycle. It's a little bit abnormal that we've even done this in the first place, I will say. But bull markets, generally speaking, have never been normal. There's not any real traditional normal bull market. Every bull market has looked different. The only difference this time, the only serious difference that's actually worth being concerned about this time is the fact that altcoins have gotten so unimaginably destroyed. That's a genuine concern. But we've discussed that over and over again, and we will do so more in the future, of course. If we're zooming into the 4-hourly chart here, we have some sort of ascending wedge formation here in the short term, which could mark the final move downwards towards this bounce zone on Bitcoin. So we could actually be there sooner than a lot of people expect. Obviously, it would just be best to avoid it entirely and bounce upwards preemptively and break this wedge. But if we do go down to that region, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Breaking that region would be obviously not the end of the world, but it would be very, very, very bad. So for me personally, 70,000 to 74,000 is basically the last line of defense for Bitcoin. But I don't mean that in a pessimistic way. I do actually see it as a very strong line of defense. So if we go there, hopefully it holds. Certainly could. The cycle says it will anyway. Or at least it would make a very large amount of sense within the cycle for it to hold, I should say. So guys, that's my bull case for Bitcoin right now. It's basically all relying on that bounce zone between 70,000 to 74,000 being a trampoline for the Bitcoin price. Hopefully we see that. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. As mentioned at the start of the video, if you're interested in checking out the Bitunix exchange, you can do so from anywhere in the world. It's globally accessible, no non-KYC, no VPN required, never been hacked before. It's been on the market for 3.5 years. Having such a good track record is really an exceptional thing. You can use my link down below to get a 15% trading fee discount attached to your account for life. Go ahead and do that if you are interested. And the last thing I'll mention before we end off today is the VIP group on Telegram. If you want to get altcoin trading signals 4 times a week, you can get them on Telegram. I post them there. So yeah, check it out if you're interested, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good day.